Hi, it's Tim from Master Vintner. I'm here today to update you on two of the long-term projects we're working on for the Master Vintner wine kits. Now on the red side here, this is the grape maceration project that I did, where I took two Amoroso kits, two Amarones, and one of them I fermented absolutely normally as per schedule. And the other one I left on an extended maceration of both grape skins and oak. I'll leave the link to the blog where I did that in the comment section below. Now, this has had a chance to get some really decent age on it, and it's time to give it a good test. When it was younger, the difference was very obvious. The one that had the long-term maceration was instantly more mature tasting, had in fact a greater depth of oak character, the rate of extract was higher. It was really an impressive difference. But the thing about making your own wine from a kit is age makes all of the difference. When a kit is young, you really can't judge what's happening with it. If you drink it under 3 months of age, it's going to taste good. It's going to taste great, actually. It's going to be delicious. But the character that it will deliver at the end of a year or two of aging won't be apparent. And there can be some enormous changes in wines. They can completely flip. There are certain kinds of grapes which do this as a matter of course. Zinfandel is one of them. It'll just change course entirely over the course of a year and 18 months. And sometimes it can flip-flop back and forth to where it's more open, less open, things like that. Sauvignon Blanc is another, where it can seem like a very simplistic grape, fruity, not much going on, and then all of a sudden it'll snap into complete focus, and you'll get a very different wine. Just to let you know, I actually tasted these wines earlier. But the reason for that is I did it blind. I didn't know which one was which, and I also didn't know which one was being served in which glass. And that's important because I wanted to get an accurate assessment of what was really going on rather than going with my preconception, which was that the extended age wine would be much better. I didn't want to be influenced by that. So I tasted these earlier, have my results. Now the first one I tasted was this one, and it's just like an Amarone should be. It's got ridiculous color. It is inky black, beautiful, and it's reddish at the edges rather than purpley. It's shed some of its youthfulness. When red wines are very young, they have a purplish tinge as opposed to a true red or a bricky red color. But it's getting a little red at the edges, and that's perfect for the amount of age it has. The smell, dark fruits, red fruits, dark berries, really rich and complex. Lively hit of oak, and it's very heady. You can almost smell the alcohol content in it, although I don't think you can. That might be just be an artifact of my expectations. Really mouthfilling. Big attack of red fruit up front, and it warms across the palate. Plums, there's a really nice dark red Italian prune plum in there. Oh, that's a fantastic character. That's really, really good. This is going to be fantastic with a roast, a steak, a big piece of meat, or some very nice aged cheese. Pecorino Romano might be a fantastic foil. Now the second sample was this one. It's a little bit lighter in color, just a hair, which had me wondering whether it was the non-extended maceration wine. But it's still very beautiful, very pretty, extremely clear. Wow. There's a huge difference. That wine has an emphasis of fruit and a richness of that sort of dark red fruit, almost like a stewed fruit character. It's just wonderful and rich on the palate. This one, much leaner smelling. The fruits are more bright red fruit. It seems to have a floral note to it as well. Very interesting. Very different attack on the palate. The first thing I get are those red fruits, almost a cherryish, bitter cherry jam, and then cocoa, like dry cocoa powder, and notes of mocha, and espresso, and toasted oak, and boy, there's a raspberry character that's just running down the finish there. That is extremely complex. There is a great depth of character to that. After I made my tasting notes, I checked with the person who'd served me the wine, and this sample is the one that was through the extended maceration. Paradoxically a little lighter in color, despite the fact that it was on the skins for a longer period of time, but also the maturity of character, the depth of flavor, and the complexity of those finishing notes is a huge change. I'm not saying that this one isn't spectacular. It's wonderful. I'm going to have it with my dinner tonight. But this one, this is super special. I have plans for this, which include even more aging, to see how these two stack up after a couple of years. But bottom line is that the initial thoughts that I had on the Amarone extended aging experiment were confirmed. The extended age, the extended maceration, and the time spent fiddling with it a little bit longer made a huge difference to this wine. Now this is fascinating. I went through one of those discussions this week on an internet forum for winemakers. And the discussion is the one that comes up roughly once a year, right around the time of a couple of major wine competitions. And some winemakers assert that kit wines should be assigned to a separate category and not judged against grape wines. Their reasoning behind this always leaves me flummoxed, because they say two things. And they say them at the same time almost always. Number one, making a kit wine isn't really a skill. You don't put anything into it. What you're getting is the expertise of the kit wine manufacturer. And number two, since kit wines take so many metals, it's unfair. And then they throw in, but anyway, kit wines aren't real wine anyway. They're not that good. You can see my confusion. As a matter of fact, the Best of Show white wine at the California State Fair this year was made from a kit. It won double gold. It also won the Golden Bear Award in California. It's kit wine. Now, was it because it was one of my kit wines? As much as I want to say yes, that's why, the answer is no. The answer is it was because it was in the hands of a fantastic winemaker who knew exactly what he was doing with the raw materials he was provided. He did everything to shepherd that wine through and make it fantastic. Now, on the other hand, a clumsy or unskilled winemaker can take the greatest ingredients, whether it's a kit or fresh grapes or fresh juice or fruit or anything, and not have a great result. So I think it's the skill of the winemaker. And this absolutely illustrates for me that you can take two wines, treat them differently, and get something absolutely different every time you make it. This next white wine is Master Vintner's limited edition 2016 Joli Sauvignon Blanc. It's a French Sauvignon Blanc, and I did everything as per the instructions, omitting no detail however slight, making no change however small. Except on finding stabilizing day, I racked the wine down into two separate vessels. I've got about 5 US gallons, 19 liters of the stuff that I processed as per the instructions. I do that a lot. I did write the instructions, so I tend to follow them because they turn out good product. I don't modify everything I touch. But I also wanted to do a Sur Lie post-fermentation processing with batonnage, and that's what's happening in this jug over here. I took the dividend from that 5 gallons and I put it into a jug, and I left it in contact with all of the yeast. And more than just leaving it in contact with all of the yeast, I put it on this stir plate. There's a magnetic bean in there that's spinning around. I've got it on setting 2 on my Maelstrom stir plate, and it's keeping all of the yeast in suspension in contact with the wine. Now, over time and at ambient temperature, the yeast is going to do what every organism does. It's going to slow down, then it's going to die, and then, like all dead things, it will rot. That rot will happen when it lyses, when it the yeast cell bursts and the contents of the cell spread out into the wine. These contents include amino acids, manoproteins, and a bunch of other compounds that will change the flavor, character, and aroma of the wine, usually in a positive way. Now, usually I say that because if you do this to red wines, it doesn't turn out at all. Autolyzed flavors in red wines are pretty horrible. They tend to smell like rubber tires to me. Other people have other descriptions, but you get the idea. In comparing these two, I'm going to taste the standard processed wine first. It's a typical Sauvignon Blanc. It's got a light golden color, a little hint of greenish at the edge, which indicates that the grapes weren't overripe when they were picked, but otherwise it's a beautiful gold. Classic Sauvignon Blanc. It's a mature sort of chopped grass hay character. People say vegetative, but to me vegetative sounds weird, like vegetables or vegetable soup. It's the smell of new mown hay. And to me, Specifically, as someone who has hayed as a youth on a farm, this smells like fresh cut Timothy grass. Timothy grass. Fabulous. It also has peaches, stone fruit. When it was really, really young, it had a hint of tropical fruit, almost a pineapple thing going on, maybe a bit of mango, but not now. It's matured through that, and it's got a really lovely, there's almost a berry smell as well, kind of a little bit berryish, like a strawberry. Oh, well, that's absolutely lovely. Wow, that's fantastic. Wow, that is really, really good. It's not as acidic as some Sauvignon Blancs you might have had. The New Zealand style is very, very sharp, tons of acidity, and they have to balance that by having residual sugar. This wine is completely dry. The acid level is quite balanced, so it's rounded on the palate. The attack is very soft and lush, but it's got that white peach, apricot, nectarine, stone fruit thing going on, and that little bit of berry in the finish. It is crisp. It's lovely. I'm just really blown away by how good that is, even though it is still fairly young. It's less than 5 months old. Nice job. My apologies for the abrupt change in continuity. It's the trouble with being an actual expert on winemaking as opposed to a videographer. As for the sample that's been Sur Lie and Batonnage, you can see that it is obviously a very different wine. It is opaque, it is cloudy, it is murky, and it has a toasty, creamy biscuit smell to it. It's very, very different. Now, part of that is in the fact that it's being obscured by a lot of protein in suspension, which is masking some of the aromas, which will come out later. But a greater extent of it is amino acids that have broken down from the yeast that are going to stay in suspension, and they are going to inform this character permanently. And it is savory, and it seems to smell less fruity at this point, and I think it's going to stay that way, but that's a good thing. It has structure, it has some depth and character. It still has the attack of peaches on the palate that I find so appealing, but it seems drier. Now, it's not. They both finished at exactly the same specific gravity. What's happened is some of the fruit is backed out of this wine, and it's gotten that depth of character from all those other compounds. I'm getting very excited about this. I think I have to do a much larger batch going forward, but I'll keep you updated as time passes. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to continue working. Thanks. And remember, with Master Vintner, you can uncork something special, or a lot of things that are special.